everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. What I want to show you today is how to make this beautiful arrow fold, fancy fold card. So let me just switch over to my desktop and we'll get started. Okay, so I shared this card today on my blog post. It's an arrow fold, fancy fold card. And I saw this a little while ago and definitely decided that I wanted to try to figure out how to make it. And really, it's not that hard to make once you've kind of figured out the measurements. Yeah, and once you figured out the measurements. So I'm going to give you those actually in the blog post. It gives you all the measurements um, for this card, and so that you can make this card or you can make other fancy fold cards using the same measurements. Okay, so what I'm using today is the Prize Peony set from Stampin' Up's annual catalog. It's just a lovely, lovely stamp set and coordinating dies. I'll set that off to the side. Now, let's put my card off to the side. What I've done is I've actually cut my paper in advance, but I haven't scored it at all and folded it because I wanted to walk through those instructions. As I said, the measurements for this card are on the blog. So if you're watching this after the blog post, I will put the link to the blog post below so that you can find it. So I've cut a piece of, this is gray granite, and I've cut the piece of gray granite that is 4 1/4 by 11. So you are going to need your trimmer or you can use a stylus. You're definitely going to need a ruler if you're using the stylus. So trimmer you're going to be using to score, or a stylus and a ruler. It works as well. But okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to score this piece that is 4 1/4 by 11 at 5 1/2. Okay, so that's step one. And then you want to just take, where's my ruler gone to? Oh, gone my ruler. Oh, there it is. Okay, so the second thing that you want to do is you want to measure across on your card base along the 4 1/4 inch. You need a pencil. So just lightly mark at 2 1/8. Then you're going to turn this aside, turn this the other way, and you're going to mark from the bottom. So I'm going to start at 6 inches just because I can't get my ruler across. So 6 inches. You're going to mark 2 inches from the bottom and 4 inches from the bottom. And you're going to do that on both sides of your cardstock piece. This will be your card base. So again, 2 inches and 4 inches. So that's what you put your ruler and your pencil away. Bring your trimmer or your stylus and your ruler back in. What you then want to do is you want to score from the 5 1/2 inch score line down to your 2 1/8 inch mark. So we'll just get those lined up. And so you're going to score, and you're going to do the same from the 4 inch mark down to the 2 1/8. So along the bottom, everything is lining up with this 2 1/8 mark. Okay, so that's at the 5 1/2, 4, and then again at the 2 inch. And then you're just going to flip your card base, catch it. So again, from the 2 1/8 up to the 5 1/2 inch score. Line those up and score down. Make sure you don't cut with your trimmer. I've been known to do that. So then again at the 4 inch to the 2 1/8 along the bottom. And then from the 2 inch to the 2 1/8. Okay. Put my trimmer to the side. So you may not be able to see these score lines very well on the camera, but I've got a score line across the top at 5 1/2, and then score lines from that score line down to 2 1/8, from 4 inches to 2 1/8 from 2 inches, and that's on both sides. So the other thing that you're definitely going to need for this card is your bone folder. So I'm just going to take my bone folder and give it a good crease across the top. Now, to make the arrow, you're going to make peaks and valleys out of this card. So I start with the line, the furthest in line. So the score line that goes from your 5.5 inch down to your 2 1/8. So fold that in, give it a good crease, and then take the next line is from the 4 inch down to the 2 1/8. So fold that back towards the outside. Again, score it, crease it really well with your bone folder. And then the final one from the 2 inch mark down to the 2 1/8 goes back in like that. And you're going to do the same on the other side. So again, from the 5.5 down to the 2 1/8 goes in, crease it really well, and then out on the score. Just take that sometimes, just use your finger to crease down towards the bottom and make sure you're getting a point on that. And then the last one from the 2 inch mark goes to the inside. Now you are going to adhere this. So I will just take my Stamp and Seal. You can use a glue dot if you prefer, but just a little bit of Stamp and Seal will just hold that in place. Okay, and then you want to take your Stamp and Seal as well. Oops. Oh, and this, just adhere that down on itself and apply some Stamp and Seal here. Maybe a little bit on this side. This just keeps the arrow in the right shape there. So now you can see that, oops, I have my arrow fold, and you can just kind of press those down and crease them with your bone folder. Okay, so that's the card base. Once you've got that, you're away to the races on the rest of the card. So put that aside. I have cut a piece of the Peony Garden Designer Series paper. So I have the gray granite on one side and this really pretty petal pink on the other side. Had to think about this. Now I'm going to take my ruler again, or my pencil, and I'm actually just going to use my trimmer, because what you want to do is you're going to cut this to at the 2 1/8 inch mark. So let's just make a little line here. You're going to cut this into 3. So what you want to do is you want to line up your point on one end with that little mark that you made at 2 1/8, and this time instead of scoring, you're going to cut from the point down to the 2 1/8, and then again from the 2 1/8 inch back to the point at the top, and you're going to cut that. So you're going to end up with 3 triangles, 2 that have straight sides on them, and one that is, can't remember, I have to think about my math, equilateral triangle. Maybe that's right. The angles are all the same. So you're going to end up with 3 triangles. Now you're going to repeat this. I have a piece of Whisper white cardstock that is cut the same. This is cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4. Again, I just want a little mark at the 2 1/8 inch, because I'm going to do exactly the same on this one. I'm going to cut this from the top point down to the 2 1/8 inch mark, and then from the 2 1/8 inch mark back towards the top. On this one, I'm only keeping for this card the 1 triangle. That's going to go on the inside. So let me just show you where these go. This will go on the front of your card. You can use all the same if you wanted, for example, but I flipped it up. So on this one, these pieces with the straight edge, the 90-degree angle on them, will go on either side of the inside of your card. And then your Whisper white triangle will go in here that you can use to put your inside sentiment on. So I'm going to adhere those down. So it really is up to you how you decide to use your designer series paper, whether you want it all being exactly the same or whether you've, switched them like I have. But from one piece that is 4 inches by 5 1/4, you will end up with enough, all of your pieces that you need for this card. All right, that's the one. Tear this one down as well. Now, I'll wait to put my triangle for the inside on until I've actually stamped a sentiment, but I can put my triangle on the front of my card. All right. Get it roughly lined up here, down to the point. There. Okay, so that's the card base mostly finished. Now I have a piece of Whisper White. I've got some Tuxedo Black Memento ink. My stamp set back in here, and I'm going to stamp it using the really large peony. Just going to grab another block while I'm at it because. Okay. So I'm going to color this with my Stampin' Blends. So when you're coloring with Stampin' Blends, you want to make sure you're using Memento ink so it doesn't smudge, it doesn't bleed. Yes, that's the right word. Okay, so now I've got my petal pink, or my peony, and I brought in petal pink, Stampin' Blends, Crumb Cake, and Smoky Slate. So I'm going to color. Oops! And of course I forgot the color for the leaves. I'll have to just grab those quickly. So the way I color is I always start with my lightest Stampin' Blend, and I gotta go over the entire image. And I don't necessarily do the whole thing at once. This one's a little harder to do. Not harder. It just, because it's already got these dark shading in here, it's a little harder to get some of the darker petal pink in it. It doesn't show up quite as much. So that's why I've brought in the Smoky Slate and Crumb Cake to try and to add some depth into it from other colors. You don't have to just use the light and dark of one color when you're coloring. You can always use another color to bring some depth into it. All right. So I'm just going to go and try and add some darker. Like I said, if you really wanted some dimension to this, you probably would have to add a darker color into it. Maybe like adding Flirty Flamingo in to just get some additional color to it. So then I'm going to take the dark Crumb Cake and just add some color. You can see I don't worry, because I'm going to just blend this a little bit I'm going to go back in using the light cool petal pink just to color over this and just remove some of the the obvious lines and just blend it. And then I'm just going to go in over and use some of the I'm going to go over it with the gray, or sorry, this is the Smoky Slate, and then back over it. You can spend a lot of time, oops, wrong end, a lot of time coloring if you wanted to. Okay, and then I'm going to color. There's this one bud here that I want to color. As well. Put some of my dark petal pink into this one. I will just add in a little bit of the smoky slate on this one. There. All right, like I said, I forgot to grab my green, so let me just grab some of my green. I've got some old olive here. So again, I'm going to use the light old olive on the leaves. Color them. Watch me color. All right, and I'll do the stem as well, but I'll come back and use the smaller brush end or smaller tip end to do the stem, just so that I don't go too far outside the lines. So the blends are great in that they have both the big brush end for larger images and then the tip end marker, I don't know what it's called, marker tip end, I guess, which you can use for smaller images. Now I'm just going to take my dark and just give it some dimensions down the leaves. And then go back over it just a little bit to blend this. Okay, there. Put these off to the side. And now I'm going to bring in, if I can, my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And cut the peony out. My layer is going right. Okay, so I've got my peony here, and I'm just going to line it up. I'm waiting for my magnetic cutting plate to arrive. I can't wait for it to arrive. So it's not quite lined up. There we go. Gently put this down. Sorry for jiggling the camera. Take my machine and just put it off to the side. There we go. So there's my peony cut out. Just makes a beautiful flower. So easy to do. And then the one other piece that I need is I have the square vellum doily that I'm going to put on the front of the card. So we're going to put that on like that. Hard to see. And then I also want to put, so I'm going to take some of this. This is the gray granite shimmer ribbon. I just want to grab a glue dot. This is an odd shape across the top, so it just helps to use glue dots. What I found was if I just put a glue dot in the center on the back, which will be hidden by the ribbon itself, so like that, and just hold the ribbon in place. Because these edges on the side are crooked, your ribbon obviously wants to go upwards like that. So again, I just took a glue dot and put in each corner. Oops, each corner. Stuck on my finger. Like that. And then these can just gently fold them over so that they're at the right angle. Oops, my glue dot's a little bit high. There we go. Okay. So that way it holds it in place, and it's not going to want to point point upwards. That. And then you can just tie scissors, a small bow. Hopefully I've left myself enough. Actually, I might be tying just a little knot because I think I gypped myself out of some ribbon here, but that's okay. I'll just tie a little instead of a bow. Put that in place. Actually, I'm going to use another glue dot just in the middle. Sometimes you need extra fingers, and the glue dots are perfect for those extra fingers. So that will just hold that in place so that I can tie my little knot there. Okay, and then I'll just trim those. Add a little bit of it there across the top. Okay, so the last couple of steps. So I'm going to take the vellum, the square vellum doily. I'm going to put that on an angle like that. Again, I'm just going to use a little bit of snail. This is going to be hidden by the peony, or not snail, sorry, Stampin' Seal. Old habit, force of habit. Okay, so put that in the middle. It's going to be hidden, that adhesive. And then I'm going to take some dimensionals and just pop up my peony. On top of the doily. Like that. Okay, I have 2 pieces left to go on. Oops. I have cut a piece of Whisper White cardstock that is 1/2 inch by 2 inches and a piece of Petal Pink cardstock that is 3/4 of an inch by 2.5. And let's see. Of course, I don't have the stamp that I used. Oh goodness, let me find the stamp that I used for this. Well, let's find a stamp. I think this will fit. So I'm going to put a thinking of you on this one. Sorry, not Season's Greetings. This is a thinking of you from the In the Pines stamp set. And I'm going to stamp this one in gray granite. Sure, but I clearly didn't clean off my stamp from the last time. That was a little green, so let's try that again. There we go, that's better. Okay, so the other thing I've got here is a piece of let's get the right one, a piece of Petal Pink, and I'm going to use a dimensional to adhere this to the back, or to adhere this to this piece of Petal Pink. And then the last thing that I want to do, I have some of the champagne rhinestones. And I'm just going to put a rhinestone on each end of here. So I have switched up what the sentiment is on this card compared to what is in the blog post, but and on the blog post I use the banners this one, the Banners Pick-a-Punch, and added the tag end, but I don't actually have room to do that on this one, so I'm just going to adhere it like that. So then the next step is to take, sometimes Siri wakes up and shouldn't wake up. All right, let's just take some dimensionals and we'll just put that on the front like that. So your last piece that you want to do, and I'm just going to use the small peony with the leaves, and I'm going to stamp that. Oh, it's not very granite. Gosh, surprising how easy it is to make a mess. All right, stamp just a flower in the middle of this card, and because it's a thinking of you card, I'm actually not going to put anything so that I can write a note. So then this adheres to the inside of your card. Like that. There. So that's the inside of the card, and that's the outside of the card. So let me just switch back here. Maybe. There we go. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for joining me. If you would love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel, so you can easily subscribe using the button below the video. And then as I said, I will put the link to my blog post so that you can go back and find the instructions that are all written up, as well as the supply list that I used for my card. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm glad you were able to make it today. And I look forward to catching up with you on other videos. Bye, everybody.